So this presentation is just going to help get us all on the same page for some important foundational expectations of a college essay. So you want to start with the intro. If you're watching these videos in order they're listed on the syllabus, you already know what a thesis is, but if not, you'll find out soon. And you want to make sure you're including appropriate context. So basically an intro is like a movie trailer, but for a paper. In a good movie trailer, you know what type of movie it is. So you know if it's a comedy, a scary movie, a drama, and you know the general plot. What you don't know is every single plot point. And so I'm not going to show you this embedded image of the Carrie from 1970s movie trailer, but I would encourage you to look it up on YouTube if you want an idea of what not to do in an intro, because basically this trailer gives away way too much of the plot. You don't want to watch a movie trailer and think you've seen the whole movie. You just want enough so that you are interested. You kind of have a general idea and you know that you want to go and see the movie. Well, your intro, you want to give them a general idea what this paper is going to be about, and you want the reader to want to continue reading it. Another thing is body paragraphs. Those come after the intro and before the conclusion, and they should all start with a topic sentence. So your thesis statement is the guide for your entire paper, and the body paragraph topic sentence is the guide for what that paragraph's content is going to be about. So you have to have a very clear and strong topic sentence, and that's an easy way to check your work. If you want to make sure that all of your paragraphs tie into your thesis, then read your topic sentence for each paragraph and see if it seems like it connects to your thesis. If the topic sentence doesn't, then you may need to create a stronger topic sentence, or you may need to consider revising your thesis. And then you want to support any claims you make. So a lot of times when we think of claims, we think of some type of argumentative paper or giving a fact, but a claim can be anything. If you say that you live in a small town, that's still a claim. That's a statement, and it's something that you can then support by explaining what you mean by a small town, because someone who's from Chicago or Los Angeles has a different idea of a small town than maybe someone who's from O'Fallon. So you want to illustrate what a small town means, and that shows that you understand who your audience is. With tone, you want to make sure that you're using formal tone for your essays. I've mentioned that you do not want to use contractions. That's one good way to keep proper tone. Try to avoid second person. I won't be too, difficult on the use of second person in this particular course, but it's something if you use it a lot, I'll tell you to start watching out for it. And by English 112, you really want to work on not using second person, which is things like you and your. I included a body paragraph example here. I'll skip it for now because you will be reading, or you may have already read, How I Lost a Junior Miss Pageant for this week, and that has some really great body paragraph examples for you to look at instead. Conclusions, this may be very different than what you're used to. So one thing you want to try to avoid in this class is writing a 3-point thesis, because that's kind of a spoiler alert for your paper, which you don't want spoiler alerts in trailers. You don't want them in your intro. So a 3-point thesis is when you say 3 things that you plan on mentioning in your paper in your 3 body paragraphs. That really limits what you can say, and again, it kind of spoils the rest of the paper for everyone. So when you write a 3-point thesis and a typical essay that follows that structure, then you tend to have a very basic conclusion that just restates your thesis and summarizes a couple points, and that's it. And you want to do something a little bit more advanced than that. For the first paper, for the narrative, you could potentially say how that event that you wrote about is still impacting you to this day, or the biggest effect that it had on you is how you can wrap up the paper. One thing you want to do is avoid making new claims. That's something you want to watch out for in your argumentative essay. if you have 4 points that you want to say to support your thesis, you don't want to introduce the 4th point in the final paragraph, because then that final paragraph doesn't matter if it's the last paragraph of your paper. It's not functioning as a conclusion, it's functioning as a body paragraph. Way back in ancient medieval times, on this little site called Facebook, it used to be a bunch of those some e-card type things, which were kind of like the precursor to what we have as memes these days, life hacks and honey badger videos. And so the life hacks were things like these, and I think this one is really helpful for writing a conclusion. If you can't imagine dropping the mic after the final sentence in your essay, your conclusion needs to be stronger. Well, if all you're doing is recapping a couple of your points, there's no mic drop there. Your reader has fallen asleep by the end of your conclusion. There will be a revision strategies presentation that you guys will be looking at, I believe week 2, but definitely some point in this semester. But that's going to help you with this final bullet point. One of the biggest things to know, and write this down, commit it to memory in any way you need to, is that one of the errors a lot of students make is they don't understand there's a difference between global and fine-tuning revisions, and they tend to only focus on fine-tuning revisions when working between rough drafts and final drafts. And fine-tuning revisions are very important, and you need to do that, but if you're missing out on global revisions, you're really not doing enough revising. So fine-tuning revisions are things like fixing typos, grammatical errors, spelling errors. If you did have contractions, changing the contractions back to the 2 words that made them up, things like that. Global revisions are more extensive revisions. So it could be adding content, it could be deleting unnecessary content, it could be changing the focus of your paper, revising your thesis statement, reorganizing either your paragraphs or within your paragraphs. So some of those more major things, and adding more depth to your paper is a really important global revision. It could even be kind of changing the tone. There's a whole bunch of things, but it's beyond just changing some proofreading issues, which is what a lot of students end up doing. And also showing that you're reading your feedback and you're really trying to grow as a writer shows that you're working more on those global revisions. If you need revision assistance, the Writing Center is available at McKendree. For fall 2020 semester, it's all online only appointments, so it doesn't matter where you are. You can make an appointment. They're all in Central Time, and there's instructions on how to make and meet for online appointments on mckendree.mywconline.com, or if you just look up the Writing Center on McKendree's webpage, you'll find a link to that website. And if you make an appointment, then wherever you are, as long as you have a computer with internet access, you can meet with the writing consultant and they will help you with revision assistance. It's best to go in with some type of specific things that you want to look at, because they're not a proofreading service. You can't just give them your paper and say, hey, what should I fix? So maybe you receive some feedback from me and you aren't quite sure what to do with it. You can go to the Writing Center. Or you have issues with commas, you can go to the Writing Center and say, I have always had issues with commas and I want help. It's a great resource. Some other things to know for all our papers: everything is in MLA format. I will put an MLA sample paper in the second week's module. So for your first rough draft, just write your paragraphs. And then in week 2's module, you'll see the MLA sample paper format, and you can use that to then add the MLA formatting before you submit your final draft. Some of you may already know MLA formatting or have a general idea, and if you want to try to attempt something for your rough draft, that'll be less you have to change before the final draft. Plagiarism, don't do it. You're going to see a presentation on plagiarism to see all the different kinds. There are a lot of different repercussions that McKendree has for students who have been found plagiarizing. There's really no reason to do it in my class. I would much rather you write to the best of your ability and get, say, a C than to panic and think you need to plagiarize and then you get a 0 and you could face a lot of other, really bad repercussions. Due dates are important. Make sure you're following them on the schedule, and make sure you're submitting your assignments the way that I'm asking, which is that you're uploading them to Brightspace in the appropriate area. And that's it. Those are the basic foundations that you have to look for in this class. If you do those things, then you are already starting to build a college essay. So no matter if you just started college, fresh out of high school, if you've been in college a semester or two, if you haven't been in school in years, you all now have a general idea of what I'm looking for when I'm asking for an essay for this class.